is a clear step in the right direction. It ensures we continue to support the Allegheny National Forest, rural communities, and business owners. Mr. Speaker, I urge my colleagues to support this bipartisan legislation and support our nation's timber industry and forests.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back the balance of my time.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Texas seek recognition? Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, this coming Monday, June 15th, we mark 14 years since DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. The key words here are deferred action. That means you defer action and not go into deportation. It gave dreamers a chance to breathe. Yet President Trump is trying to suffocate DACA one delayed renewal at a time. He is detaining and deporting dreamers, slow-walking renewals, and creating gaps that are costing them their livelihoods. Dreamers were brought here as children. They grew up here and are American in every way, in their hearts, their soul, and their mind, except on paper. They should not have to keep proving they belong in the only country they call home. This is why I'm leading the American Dream and Promise Act to give dreamers the protections permanently and a pathway to citizenship. The House must vote on this bill and finally keep the promise that this country has made. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Utah seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to recognize an inspiring small business owner from Utah, Chelsea Butler, whose work reminds us of the beauty that can bring people together even in divided times. Chelsea, the founder of Sunnyside Urban Flower Farm, has been selected as a floral designer for the 113th Annual First Ladies Luncheon in Washington, D.C., a century-old bipartisan tradition hosted by the Congressional Club Museum and Foundation that supports charitable causes and celebrates community service. Her journey is one of resilience and creativity. During the COVID pandemic, as her family faced personal challenges, Chelsea transformed her approach to farming, turning from vegetables to flowers, and in doing so, cultivated not just crops, but connection. Through workshops and community events, she has helped people reconnect, heal, and find joy. In a world that often feels divided, her work is a reminder that something as simple as a flower can bridge gaps, uplift spirits, and bring us closer together. I'm proud to recognize Chelsea Butler for her achievement and for representing Utah on the national stage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California, Mr. Ruiz, seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
I rise today with an important message for the Trump administration. The Arctic National Wildlife Refuge is not for sale. For the third time, they have tried to sell off the Arctic Refuge to big oil. And for the third time, it has flopped. Last Friday's lease sale brought in less than 1% of projected revenue. Not one major oil company even showed up, and for good reason. Last summer, I traveled to the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. I fished its rivers, walked its coastal plain, and watched muskox roam one of the last truly wild places on Earth. So I can speak with firsthand experience when I say this place is simply too special to drill, too important for the animal ecosystem. Global bird migrations is too critical for indigenous cultural preservation. Our public lands belong to the American people, not to the highest bidder. And when the highest bidder doesn't even show up, maybe it's time this administration got the message. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Pennsylvania seek recognition? Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For the past 27 years, the Bipartisan Women's Caucus has held an annual wreath-laying ceremony at Arlington's National Women's Memorial. It's a solemn event, a time when Republicans and Democrats come together to honor the immense service of women in the United States Armed Forces. Until this year, several military branches declined to participate in what would have been the 28th annual ceremony, leading to the event being canceled. They cited Trump's executive order and Department of Defense guidance that bans celebration of identity months and diversity events. DEI America is home to more than 2 million living women veterans. For 200 years, women have fought and sacrificed for our nation. DEI, instead of honoring their service, the Trump administration is trying to erase women's contributions to our nation and our history. DEI, they want to deny and diminish the sacrifice of women veterans. Can you imagine anything more un-American? Mr. Speaker, DEI, this administration will not ever erase their devotion, excellence, and integrity. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
I rise to request 1 minute.
The gentleman's recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor an institution that is purely California. It's the California Conservation Corps, as it celebrates its 50th anniversary. Started in 1976 with Jerry Brown in his first iteration as governor. When wildfires come, when floods rise, when the earth shakes, and when pandemics descend, you can count on the California Conservation Corps answering the call. Every year, Corps members have protected our forests and built and maintained trails so that many of us can enjoy the outdoors. And when the nation calls, the California Conservation Corps answers far beyond the borders. In the wake of Hurricane Katrina in Louisiana, Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, the California Conservation Corps answered the call for mutual aid by sending crews to support post-disaster recovery. If there's a flood, if there's a fire, look to the levees, look to the forest, and you'll find the California Conservation Corps. It has a rich and well-deserved history, and with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back in honoring the California Conservation Corps' 50th anniversary. Thank you.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas seek recognition?
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to House Resolution 1345, I'll call up House Resolution 1335.
The clerk will report the title of the resolution.
House Resolution 1335, resolution condemning actors seeking to defraud the United States government and expressing the sense of the House of Representatives that government-wide fraud and improper payment prevention reforms will meaningfully improve the financial prosperity of the United States, and that federal program eligibility should be verified before payment.
Pursuant to House Resolution 1345, the resolution is considered read. The resolution shall be debatable for 1 hour, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking member of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform or their respective designees. The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Sessions, and the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Walkinshaw, will each control 30 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Sessions.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on the measure under consideration.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman's recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are facing a national emergency of fraud in federal programs that is impacting all Americans. We have watched and been very sad to see that the deficit that keeps rising in this country, but it comes also from fraud whereby money that was spent by the federal government is given to people who did not earn and are not entitled to those resources. According to the Government Accounting Office, the GAO, the federal government is estimated to lose between $233 and $521 billion annually to fraud against all federal programs and operations. This means that the average American taxpayer spends between $1,000 and $3,000 annually just to line the pockets of fraudsters and criminals. While vulnerable Americans are robbed of benefits, these programs are designed to provide things that we had authorized them for, and they're being stolen. They're being taken advantage of. It's time that Congress makes sure that the American public understands the true extent of the problem so that Congress can be empowered to enact bold legislation to address fraud in programs. Mr. Speaker, our chairman, James Comer, chairman of the Government Reform and Oversight Committee, listed it as one of the priorities, not just for this Congress, but for the American people to know that Congress is doing their job. They are doing their job to not only approach and attack this problem, but they're going to make sure that the American people have a clear viewpoint of where this happened, why it's happening, and what Congress intends to do about it. As a result of my serving as the chairman of government operations, I have held 6 hearings where we investigated and looked at not only how and why this happened, but the real question is, what is Congress doing and the federal government to make sure that they stop this issue by addressing it? I will include in my remarks a report that was issued by Government Reform and Oversight that is titled, "The Cost of Doing Nothing." And the cost of doing nothing means that we allow it to continue. That is why we are on the floor today, to give to the American people a clear answer of not only what happened, how it happened, but also who is responsible for these actions. And I would assume that based upon what I've seen over the last few weeks, that our friends that are Democrats will come to this floor and vote no. They want to act like and they deny what is happening. And yet, during every single one of these hearings, our friends showed up and were very critical and really asked thoughtful questions. They asked questions of how and why and what we're going to do. Today is an opportunity where we will lay out that story for the American people and say, this is a national disgrace. So what we're bringing to the House Resolution 1355 today will make clear to the American people from the United States Congress that we would like to have every single member understand and vote for, because you see it impacts every single congressional district. As the father of a disabled young man, a Down syndrome young man, I will tell you that the benefits that my son or others who are disabled count on the federal government to be able to properly provide to them, as provided by law, the things that they're entitled to. And yet many other people not only come and make claims that are not true, but devise a process by which to take money away from those who it was designed to help. In every state across the country, fraud in federal programs has run rampant. And that is why you have seen, based upon not just us ringing the bell to let people know, but really the media also speaking up about this national disgrace. And it has allowed governors and people who run local agencies to re-look at who they are, what their agencies are doing. It has caused all across this country people to go look for these types of circumstances to make sure it's not in their backyard. That is also why we're here today. We will provide a flashlight, a guiding light to show people what has happened, how it happened, and what we need to do about it. The Oversight Committee has taken decisive action in this investigation. They've taken time to understand the fraud. They've taken time to make sure that they have looked at those actors behind this. What were the reasons why these happened? Who is responsible? And it will provide a guiding light for states and counties and cities all across this country to make sure that it is not a disgrace that is being placed upon them. These programs needed to be highlighted. They needed the review. They needed the light of day. They needed to know the story. And that is exactly what this report is. This report is factually based with data, information, and things that every member should be willing to support. This is a resolution. It's not changing the law. It's saying we are going to say to the American people, on our watch, these things happened. I think that it is important to note that there will be things that are uncomfortable. There are things that are uncomfortable that happened. And I don't want to sit here today and just point a finger at any particular person, but you go where the story goes. The Oversight Committee's investigation into Minnesota social services programs uncovered $9 billion that was potentially stolen by fraudsters. And this was very interesting, Mr. Speaker, because it was a systematic understanding of how people went about this, how people turned a blind eye to not only the things that were happening, but perhaps even abetted and helped these people to sustain this frauding that went on against their own people. And the facts of the case are, the media has showed up, investigators have showed up, and so did our investigators. Investigators to go to places who are receiving millions and millions of dollars that was done across a wide range of things, and in Minnesota, $9 billion. The money that was stolen by these criminals were taxpayer money. They were taxpayer dollars that were placed there for the benefit of people in Minnesota. And I think that we should have an outrage by the people and those members of Congress from Minnesota who show up here and say, thank you for helping us. We're not going to go to fight anymore, we're going to go to fix. And that is what this does. This gives a roadmap to not just members of Congress, not just the media and the American people who will get the story, who will see how it happened, who turned a blind eye to doing their job. So, the money that was stolen by these criminals were taxpayer dollars intended to feed children, educate children, take care of those who may have a disability, helping low-income seniors, helping veterans, helping people who look to the federal government and our votes here to say, yes, we want these federal programs, and yet the people closest to the action, people responsible, elected, those with oversight responsibility, those who had prosecutorial possibilities, those who had a job to be a part of not just of the American way of doing business, but a part of what our democracy is, turned a blind eye to the facts, reality, and the things that were going on right underneath their nose. Meanwhile, senior state officials, including the governor and the attorney general, both former colleagues of ours who distinguished themselves in this body, were aware of this widespread fraud for years. Mr. Speaker, that's a story in and of itself. These officials possessed the legal and procedural authority to stop fraud payments, but repeatedly failed to not only hear the warnings, but to act against those who were whistleblowers. They retaliated against those who did bring that to them. And this is something that needs to be available for every governor in this state and every territory. When you ignore doing your job, there are people who will pay attention. There are questions that will be asked. There is going to be some sort of review. And I will tell you, the American people are tired. They're tired of people in elected places who will turn a blind eye to not just the responsibility, but will, with the knowledge that this was intended for maybe someone in their family, certainly someone in their community. And when we talk about education, disability payments, poor people, helping widows, helping veterans, that is the story that is being told today. So, in April of this year, federal authorities raided more than 20 locations in Minnesota as part of the ongoing federal investigation. This included the Quality Learning Center, self-named Quality Learning Center, a so-called child care center with no children being found, and yet millions of dollars being sucked down by fraudsters. Fraud in Minnesota became just the tip of the iceberg in this instance, as we saw. Whether it is widespread fraud in California in the hospice system or fraud in the Medicare waiver program in Ohio or New York, it is clear that our local officials, elected officials, who have the responsibility need to pay attention to the clear warnings that are being made. So the Trump administration has taken decisive action to combat fraud, waste, and abuse by establishing the White House Task Force to eliminate fraud. Since March, the task force has uncovered hundreds of millions of dollars worth of fraud just in the state of California, including other government contracts that go to women, children, disabled people, veterans, and people of disability. House Resolution 1355, sponsored by the gentleman from Texas, our Congressman Pat Fallon, and those on the subcommittee and committee, emphasized that these schemes across the country harm the American taxpayer and the vulnerable recipients who expect to receive them. Congress must condemn these actions and make sure they are available. So I encourage each of the members who will be voting today to understand the real need of what we're doing here today. It's more than just a Paul Revere call to action. It is an actual story about how local people turned a blind eye, retaliated against those who came and provided feedback, and then did nothing and waited till billions of dollars were wasted. Mr. Speaker, I hope that what I'm doing here today is giving an open invitation to all the members of this body to come and see this for what it is. It's available to them. It is something that everyone has seen the story. The question is today, will we today openly as a body understand that this is something that happened in their backyard or could be in their backyard, and they need to use this story. Today, an I vote will do just that. Mr. Speaker, I reserve my time.
The gentleman from Texas reserves. The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman's recognized.
Let me be clear. Fraud in federal programs is a real problem. It diverts money meant for children, seniors, and working families into the pockets of criminals. Every dollar lost to fraud is a dollar that didn't feed a hungry child, didn't help a disabled veteran, didn't reach the people that this Congress intended to help. And Democrats and Republicans have a long history of working together to stamp it out. We should continue to do that. And I thank the gentleman from Texas. I know he is sincere in his commitment to address this issue. But this resolution turns what should be a bipartisan effort into a partisan political attack that points the finger only at Democratic-led states and governors while pretending the problem does not exist in Republican-led states. The gentleman said we should follow the story, but this resolution is an incomplete story. It doesn't go where the story goes. Let's talk about some of the story that this resolution leaves out. Mississippi, Republican Governor Tate Reeves, in the largest public fraud case in that state's history, more than $77 million was stolen from the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, or TANF program, money meant for some of the poorest families in America. It was diverted to professional athletes, horse farms, and a volleyball complex. An audit found tens of millions in misspent federal funds, and some of that money ended up in the pocket of Trump endorser and outspoken MAGA Republican Brett Favre, who took taxpayer dollars for speaking engagements and never showed up. He pocketed the taxpayers' money and never showed up. In December of 2024, Mississippi was ordered to repay $101 million in misspent welfare money. That state's Republican-controlled legislature has done nothing to address that fraud and corruption. As of today, they're sitting on $145 million in unallocated TANF funds with no real plan. This resolution names Governor Walz and A.G. Ellison and mischaracterizes what's happened in Minnesota. It says nothing about Governor Reeves, who was directly implicated in the cover-up of the fraud. Let's continue to follow the story. Oklahoma and Alabama. According to federal data, these two states, led by Republican governors, lead the nation in SNAP fraud. Lead the nation. Not Minnesota, not New York, not New Jersey, not Maryland, Oklahoma and Alabama. This resolution is silent in both cases. Florida, federal prosecutors recently arrested a Russian national accused of submitting billions of dollars in fraudulent Medicare and Medicaid claims through a Texas-based supplier and funneling millions overseas. Governor DeSantis in Florida just reappointed a University of Florida Board of Trustees member who faces federal charges for defrauding the government of financial aid funds. So in Florida, there's not accountability for fraudsters, there's board positions. Tennessee, Republican State Senator Brian Kelsey was convicted of conspiracy to defraud the United States. Good news, he was sentenced to 21 months in prison. Bad news, President Trump pardoned him 15 days after he began serving that sentence. The former Republican Speaker of the Tennessee House and his chief of staff were convicted together in a public corruption case. President Trump pardoned them both too. This resolution calls for accountability for those who steal from federal programs. In 2025 alone, President Trump issued pardons or commutations to 25 people convicted of fraud, wire fraud, securities fraud, tax fraud, bank fraud, healthcare fraud. And those pardons deprived fraud victims of more than $1 billion in restitution they were owed. Americans had $1 billion stolen from them, and they're not getting it back because President Trump pardoned the criminals. This resolution doesn't mention it. And another state that I don't think is in the resolution is New York. And there has been some fraud in New York. A gentleman by the name of Donald J. Trump was found liable by a New York court for a decade of business fraud, inflating his net worth and values to deceive banks and insurers. Same gentleman in the state of New York, convicted by a jury of his peers, 12 jurors, of 34 felony counts of falsifying business records, fraud. Same gentleman also indicted by a federal grand jury for conspiracy to defraud the United States. President Trump pardoned convicted fraudsters, fired 19 inspectors general who collectively uncovered over $50 billion in fraud and waste in a single year. He defunded a nonpartisan training program that prepares the next generation of federal fraud investigators. You can't claim to be serious about preventing fraud, whether you have a task force or not, while you're dismantling the institutions built to catch people who commit fraud. Mr. Speaker, I support robust bipartisan efforts to prevent fraud in federal programs, and on the Oversight Committee, Democrats and Republicans have worked together to do that. But this resolution isn't that. I'll quote a former U.S. attorney who spent his career prosecuting the health care fraud that is rampant in Mississippi, not mentioned in the resolution. He said, whether a provider or beneficiary is willing to commit fraud has nothing to do with where they live or which party governs their state. So if my colleagues truly want to fight fraud, I invite them to join me in condemning Mississippi, Oklahoma, Alabama, and Florida with the same energy they brought to fraud in other states. I invite them to condemn the pardons in 2025 that let convicted fraudsters walk free. I invite them to work with us to restore the independence of our inspectors general and fund the oversight infrastructure that this administration has defunded and gutted. And with that, I reserve the balance of my time.
Members are reminded to refrain from engaging in personalities toward the president. The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask what time remains on both sides, please.
Gentleman from Texas has 16 minutes remaining. The gentleman from Virginia has 23 minutes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I do want to respond to the gentleman.
Gentleman's recognized.
I do want to respond to the gentleman and tell him today's that open invitation. He and I know that this is a lot of work that is factually based, not just showing up and making, and I don't doubt anything he said, but showing up with the evidence: who, how, where, why did this happen, what is being done. And I would just say that the gentleman knows that our Government Operations Subcommittee is ready and open and available, that he would have to admit here on the floor on a bipartisan basis. So if you want to use the words bipartisan and say this is an attack, then bring the things that you would want us also to look at. But please don't make this political, because we've done our homework, because we have aimed at where the problem is, because we have done these hearings. We have had people directly in front of us with their hands raised. We did the work. We did the facts of the case. And I think that you'll have your own time. You've got 23 minutes. The gentleman needs to understand that he too sits at one of these tables where they can have witnesses called. They can have their staff do these things. They can go and investigate. And they know, perhaps most of all, that I will be very open to listening to them. Because if there's one thing I have done over the last few years, and when I was chairman of the Rules Committee, is to listen to other people, to try and at least offer to the body an opportunity to see the facts of the case. And I think it's an easy thing to come down here. And I respect the gentleman. I make sure that he's involved in all of our hearings. But to come down here without the evidence, hard work, and make claims, I think is a very difficult thing when we are expected as members of Congress and our staffs to do these right things. Mr. Speaker, we want to continue the story. And Mr. Speaker, at this time, I would yield 2 minutes to the distinguished gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Finstead, who was on the winning baseball game last night and did a great job.
Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Congressman Sessions, for yielding. I rise today in support of HRES 1335. For far too long, fraud has run rampant throughout federally funded, state-administered programs in states like mine, Minnesota. It's allowed bad actors to steal billions of hard-earned taxpayer dollars. Taxpayer dollars meant to feed hungry children. Taxpayer dollars meant to help with and assist low-income adults. Taxpayer dollars that were intended to help veterans afford housing. And taxpayer dollars that were meant to provide affordable child care. This administration and congressional Republicans remain committed to putting an end to this nonsense and ensuring assistance programs are there to serve our neighbors who truly need them, not fraudsters. And Mr. Speaker, I'm just a common sense farmer from southern Minnesota, and it's beyond me and my understanding that tackling this fraud epidemic in this country should not be defined by the sweatshirt and the label we have on that sweatshirt. It should not be a sweatshirt with an R on it. It should not be a sweatshirt with a D. This should be the issue that we all put the sweatshirt on that has USA. And we are protecting the taxpayers of this country. We should be committed to putting these fraudsters in jail, and that should not be a partisan issue. That should not be a red state or a blue state issue. Earlier this week, the House Oversight Committee released a report exposing, in my state of Minnesota, how Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison were aware of the widespread fraud taking place throughout the state. They had the authority to stop it, and they failed to act. Today's resolution affirms our commitment to combating waste, fraud, and abuse. And it's our commitment that we need to protect the generosity of the American taxpayer. I am proud to support this legislation that holds fraudsters accountable. And I urge my colleagues to vote yes, and I yield back.
The gentleman from Texas reserves. The gentleman for Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments from the gentleman from Texas, and he is open and always willing to have a conversation and work on bipartisan legislation, and I appreciate that. I do think it's unfair to suggest that the majority or the gentlemen are the only ones who have done the work to understand these issues. I came to this floor with documented cases of fraud that have taken place across the country. I also like to enter into the record, ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the full text of the March 4th, 2026 Democratic Staff Report, Fraud as Pretext, How the Trump Administration Sacrificed Accountability to Push a Violent, Lawless Agenda.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This report outlines some of the facts related to Minnesota and the harms done by the Trump administration's freezing of federal funds in a number of states, where law-abiding Americans who pay their taxes aren't getting the benefits that they've earned because the Trump administration has frozen funds. I also like to, and I appreciate the gentleman's willingness to always engage and discuss issues in a serious way, and as he said, follow the story wherever it leads. We've had in the Oversight Committee Governor Waltz and AG Ellison. Just like to ask the gentleman, would he be willing to bring to the Government Operations Subcommittee some of the governors of the states that I outlined where massive fraud has taken place, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida? Can we bring any of those governors before our committee to talk about the fraud in their states? Happy to yield 30 seconds to the gentleman.
Thank you very much. This resolution that we're going to vote on today highlights fraud in Ohio, a Republican-led state. Right in the report, right here. This committee, the Government Reform and Oversight, has also had an ongoing investigation including Medicare fraud in Ohio, and the committee held a hearing on that Medicaid fraud in Ohio just last week. Just last week, both the staffs were aware of that, and we brought in Ohio state officials to testify, to get them on record, just like we did, as the gentleman knows,
Mr. Speaker, reclaiming
in
my time.
Minnesota and other states. Thank you. I appreciate the gentleman asking the question.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, another significant incident of fraud that isn't mentioned in the resolution and that we haven't mentioned yet today took place in the state of Texas, where the Attorney General, Ken Paxton, was indicted for securities fraud. And he had to pay $300,000 in restitution and perform community service to avoid potential jail time. So I'd like to ask the gentleman, would you be willing to ask Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton to come before our committee to talk about fraud in Texas? Happy to yield 30 seconds to the gentleman.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I will answer that question, and the answer is clear. The state of Texas, that has that authority and responsibility, did that in extensive hearings and extensive reports that led up to action by the state of Texas officially in the legislature to bring him before them, and he has answered every question he could have answered. It's on the record and aware for all the world to see.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Reclaiming my time, it doesn't sound like we're going to bring any other governors or state officials before the committee. As I noted, Governor Waltz was with us for many, many hours, but no other governors have come before us. I think that does a disservice to the American people who could benefit from hearing about the fraud in some of these other states as well. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the full text of a CBS News article, "Trump Says He'll Stop Health Care Fraudsters, Last Time He Let Them Walk."
Without objection.
Ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the full text of a PBS News article, "Trump's Pardons Included Health Care Execs Behind Massive Frauds."
Without objection.
Ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a CBS Miami article, "Florida eye doctor Solomon Melgen gets clemency from Trump in Medicare fraud." Medicare fraud, that does come up in the resolution.
Without objection.
Ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a Kaiser Family Foundation Health News article, Trump's health fraud focus at odds with past pardons.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Virginia reserves. The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, the gentleman knows that not only am I open to this, my door is open in my office. It is open for a reason. It is open for a reason that not just those who might agree with me, but those who might disagree with me, or those that might want to do business. My door is open. My availability is there. And I believe that the issue today that we're trying to talk about is fraud, not politics. And we have attempted to look at fraud where it is, and the gentleman knows where my office is, and he knows I'm open. Mr. Speaker, at this time, I'd like to yield 3 minutes to the distinguished gentleman from Pennsylvania.
The gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your leadership and your common sense approach to what is a very, very serious crisis facing our country. I do rise in support of Representative Fallon's sponsored anti-fraud resolution, Res 1335. Frankly, opposition to this bill is hard to comprehend. Making excuses, pretending that waste, abuse, and fraud does not occur. I can just hear anyone watching this on C-SPAN, I can feel their head shaking, wondering what this world is coming to. This resolution is pretty simple. It condemns fraudsters and recognizes that government-wide fraud and improper payment prevention reforms are necessary to improve the fiscal health of the United States. That's how it reads. This includes all states. Let's not pretend it doesn't. From sea to shining sea, this resolution is all that. And according to the Government Accountability Office, nevertheless, according to the GAO, $1 trillion of improper payments occurred under the Biden administration. Secretary Bessent recently estimated that it was nearly $500 billion a year, so even more than $1 trillion. And the reality is that the House Oversight Committee's recent report, whether you like it or not, found that Minnesota Governor Walz and his administration turned a blind eye to massive fraud schemes. Two of the most notorious examples were the Leering Center. I'm sure you heard of it. And Feeding Our Future, set up to feed hungry young children. People stole from it, criminals. And we're here defending them? Fraud was allowed to grow for years while warning signs were ignored. And in Los Angeles, Mr. Chairman, investigators have identified roughly over $3 billion in hospice fraud. 30% of the hospice bills were going to one county in LA County for the entire nation. And we've got people in this chamber that are defending somehow that? In other words, as I just stated, we don't need any words. 1/3 of the nation's hospice funds went to one county in the United States. And in my home state, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, where unemployment, by the way, sits at 3.6%, 15% of the residents are enrolled in SNAP. So, yet the program's recent error rate, by the way, was 15%, pretty much the highest in the country, placing Pennsylvania the worst performing states in the nation, particularly considering our lower unemployment. $463 million per year in Pennsylvania alone that is not going to needy families, it's being scammed. So from LA to Minneapolis to Pennsylvania, from sea to shining sea, taxpayers are being forced to fund fraudsters in and out of our government. It is stealing from every American who works hard and pays taxes. Equally important, we need to stop these criminals that scam the American taxpayer.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Mr. Speaker, we reserve our time.
Okay. The gentleman from Texas reserves. The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman's recognized.
Just with respect to Minnesota, and this is laid out in the report that I entered into the record, but the majority's own investigation does not support the assertions that they make in the resolution are here today. Witnesses that were questioned did not support the claims that Governor Walz or Attorney General Ellison directed anyone to ignore fraud. Instead, they described the fraud controls, the law enforcement partnerships, and the steps to stop fraudulent payments. And Minnesota's Medicaid Fraud Control Unit has prosecuted more than 300 cases and recovered more than $80 million for taxpayers. And those prosecutions were well underway long before the majority on the Oversight Committee took any interest in the situation. But there is some more fraud that I haven't discussed yet today, and it's taking place in the Trump administration. President Trump accepted a $400 million plane from a foreign government, in my view, I think quite clearly in violation of the Constitution. The Air Force then had to modify that plane to address security concerns. Those modifications estimated to cost $1 billion, but the Air Force won't tell us. Taxpayers spent at least $1 billion to modify the gifted jet that the president got from the Qatari government. And maybe you'd be okay with that if it was a gift to the United States of America. But what's going to happen to the plane in 2029? It'll be transferred to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation. And those transfer costs to transfer the $400 million gift the president took from the Qatari government also paid for by the taxpayers. So the taxpayers are getting a raw deal here, and President Trump is getting a brand new $400 million, I should say $1.4 billion jet. Haven't talked yet about the digital schemes. World Liberty Financial, started by the Trump family in 2024. Most of the profits flow directly to the Trump family. It's estimated they've profited $1.6 billion. Where did that money come from? People who bought meme coins and have seen the value of those coins plummet. Constituents, maybe in my district or yours, Mr. Sessions, who have lost money. That money is in the pockets of the Trump family. Haven't gotten into the conflicts of interest, the stock trades, the prediction market profits. I heard the White House created a task force to prevent fraud. This White House and this cabinet is a task force to commit fraud. Well documented. Well documented. I was reading the resolution, and one of the whereas clauses says, whereas the Department of Justice has also discovered that $250 million meant for a child nutrition program was instead spent on luxury cars. And that's bad. I mean, that is outrageous. Whoever did that should be prosecuted. I wonder if it would, Mr. Speaker, surprise my friends on the other side of the aisle to know that President Trump's Department of Homeland Security, under the leadership of Secretary Noem, spent hundreds of millions of dollars, not on luxury cars, but on luxury jets. They bought not one, but two of the top-of-the-line Gulfstream G700s. Secretary Noem basically walked into the proverbial Gulfstream dealership and said, I don't want the base model. That's not good enough. I want the most expensive model, the biggest, with the softest leather seats. And I, Secretary Noem, I'm not going to pay for it. I'm going to send the bill to the taxpayers, hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, I've called on Secretary Mullen to sell those jets, recoup hundreds of millions of dollars for the taxpayers, and go back to flying the more modest Gulfstream G550 that previous DHS secretaries flew. And I wonder if the gentleman would join me in that request of Secretary Mullen to sell the Gulfstreams and fly in a more modest jet, as previous secretaries have. I share the outrage about this taxpayer money being spent on luxury cars. Surely we shouldn't be spending it on luxury jets. I'm happy to yield the gentleman 30 seconds.
The gentleman has an opportunity to bring forth more than public data. He has the ability to go and take testimony and gather the information, and I encourage the gentleman to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Reclaiming my time, I'll reserve the balance of my time.
Members are again reminded to refrain from engaging in personalities toward the president. The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, at this time, I'd like to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Indiana who got a hit last night at the baseball game, the gentleman, Mr. Stutzman.
The gentleman's recognized.
I thank the gentleman from Texas. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of House Resolution 1335 to condemn the waste, fraud, and abuse of taxpayer dollars. According to the Government Accountability Office, the federal government loses between $233 and $521 billion annually to fraud. Think of that, $233 billion to $521 billion annually to fraud. That is up to $3,250 lost to fraud per taxpayer each year. That is insulting to the American people. Americans work hard for their money, and wasting Americans' paychecks to fraud is just unacceptable. I strongly support Vice President Vance's work leading the task force to eliminate fraud. The task force has already identified and halted billions of dollars of waste to fraudulent health care services and government contracts. As a member of Congress, we are entrusted to be stewards of taxpayer dollars. I look forward to finding ways to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse on behalf of the American taxpayers. And I thank the gentleman for his hard work. This is an important issue that we must figure out and eliminate this waste that the American taxpayers expect us to find and to eliminate, so that way we know every dollar is being used wisely at the federal government level. Thank you, and I'll yield back.
Mr. Speaker, we reserve our time.
The gentleman from Texas reserves. The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have no speakers, and I'm prepared to close.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Texas is recognized. The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. President Trump's pardons and commutations have wiped away billions of dollars in victim restitution, forfeiture, and fines. That includes people who have been pardoned who were convicted of securities fraud, wire fraud, bank fraud, tax evasion, healthcare fraud, and public corruption. President Trump commuted the sentence of Lawrence Duran, who helped lead a massive Medicare fraud scheme that generated hundreds of millions of dollars in false claims and more than $87 million in restitution. He commuted Joseph Schwartz, whose nursing home empire collapsed after years of neglect and fraud, leaving patients, workers, and families devastated. And let's not forget the $1.8 billion slush fund for January 6 cop beaters that he continues to try to put in place. So let's be clear, Mr. Speaker. The other side wants to lecture us about fraud. They stay silent as this administration lets convicted fraudsters walk free and wipes away the money owed to victims and taxpayers. And it doesn't stop there. As I noted, President Trump and his family stand to personally and financially benefit from some of these actions. In April of 2026, a drone manufacturer backed by Eric and Donald Trump Jr. won its first DoD contract to supply drones to the Pentagon, while their father and the President of the United States led the country into an illegal war with Iran. We have fraud being perpetrated on the American public with meme coins, no-bid contracts, Tom Homan's alleged $50,000 paper bag of money, insider trading in the White House, and the appearance, at least, maybe more, of pardons for sale. So it's hard to take seriously this resolution expressing to be concerned about fraud when there is massive fraud taking place and the majority says and does nothing. A serious anti-fraud agenda would strengthen inspectors general. It would fully fund the Government Accountability Office. It would protect independent oversight. This resolution doesn't do that. So while oversight Democrats will oppose this partisan resolution, we're going to continue to support legislation and continue to work in a bipartisan way to combat financial fraud and improper payments, protect the privacy of sensitive taxpayer information, toughen federal ethics laws, and hold fraudsters accountable, especially those that have been pardoned by President Trump. I urge my colleagues to oppose this resolution, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, the American people and members of Congress have heard the story today. 200 plus pages of factual data, 6 hearings, the opportunity on a bipartisan basis to develop the facts of the case from people's own testimony. And today, we do have a request for us to listen to the minority. This has been done for the last year and a half. Opportunity, hearings, opportunity for a staff that they have to develop the same kind of factually based information, not public data, not something that they read somewhere, but to bring to the floor, to bring to the subcommittee and the committee the hard facts of the case. Mr. Speaker, I think we have made our point today. And that point is that there were people who were elected who chose not only to not listen, but when people came forward who were whistleblowers, they took retaliatory action against them. They have denied their involvement, and yet the mounds of data suggest otherwise. I think today, this subcommittee and this committee are bringing forth, through Mr. Fallon's resolution, an opportunity to say enough is enough, and it should be a story that's told by every one of us. We invite their vote. Mr. Speaker, I yield back my time.
The gentleman yields. All time for debate has expired. Pursuant to House Resolution 1345, the previous question is ordered on the resolution and the preamble. The question is on the adoption of the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, ask for the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on the question will be postponed. Proceedings will resume on questions previously postponed. Votes will be taken in the following order: the motion to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 9238 and adoption of Resolution 1335. The first electronic vote will be conducted as a 15-minute vote pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20. Remaining electronic votes will be conducted as 5-minute votes. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the vote on the motion of the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Jordan, to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 9238, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 9238, a bill to amend the FISA Amendments Act of 2008 to extend the authorities of Title VII of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978 and for other purposes.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass H.R. 9238? Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 15-minute vote. On this vote, the yeas are 198, the nays 218. Two-thirds not being in the affirmative, the rules are not suspended and the bill is not passed. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is on the vote on adoption of House Resolution 1335, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the resolution.
House Resolution 1335, resolution condemning actors seeking to defraud the United States government and expressing the sense of the House of Representatives that government-wide fraud and improper payment prevention reforms will meaningfully improve the financial prosperity of the United States, and that federal program eligibility should be verified before payment.
Question is on the adoption of the resolution. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
On this vote, the yeas are 235 and the nays are 177, with 2 answering present. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Oklahoma seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the Committee on House Administration be discharged from further consideration of H. Con. Res. 109 and ask for its immediate consideration in the House. And I ask that the reading of the H. Con. Res. be dispensed with.
The clerk will report the title of the concurrent resolution.
House Concurrent Resolution 109, concurrent resolution allowing Emancipation Hall to be used for a ceremony to dedicate the semi-quincentennial Congressional Time Capsule on Wednesday, June 24th, 2026.
Is there objection to the consideration of the concurrent resolution? Without objection, the concurrent resolution is agreed to and the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. The House will be in order. Members, please take your conversations from the floor. The chair will now entertain requests for 1-minute speeches. For what purpose does the gentleman from Nebraska seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to celebrate 80 years of the Midwest Theater, a place that has meant so much to Scottsbluff, Nebraska and surrounding communities. For 8 decades, this theater has been more than just a building. It has been a gathering place, a community hub, and a doorway to worlds far beyond our own. Children, parents, grandparents, and friends have come through these doors to laugh, to cry, to wonder, and to be transported into stories from every corner of the globe. The Midwest Theater has given us the gift of escape, the chance to set aside the worries of everyday life and lose ourselves in imagination, creativity, and shared experiences. And while it began as a movie house, it has grown into something even greater, a thriving performing arts center that enriches the cultural life of Western Nebraska through film, music, theater, and live performance. As we celebrate 80 remarkable years, we also celebrate the countless number of volunteers who have sustained this institution and the generations still to come who will create new memories here. Happy 80th anniversary, Midwest Theater. May your lights continue to shine brightly for many years to come.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Puerto Rico seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday, students from the University of Puerto Rico gave me this graduation cap. It says, "I want to graduate without hunger." Eating is a basic need. Puerto Rico is not eligible for SNAP. As a result, many people, including our students, have to choose between buying a textbook or buying food. We are working to change that, and today I have very important news. For the first time in this initiative's history, we have a Republican co-sponsor in the Senate. And I want to thank Senator Roger Wicker for joining Senator Gillibrand and other 17 Democrats in extending nutrition fairness for Puerto Rico. And I want to thank as well the 7 Republicans and 58 Democrats who co-sponsor my bill to extend SNAP to Puerto Rico. The fight goes on, we are making progress, and the people have hope. Thank you. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Indiana seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I seek unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to remember Brett Scroggum, a young Hoosier from Greenwood, Indiana, whose life was recently taken in Indianapolis. Brett was 23 years old. He was a son, a brother, a friend of many. He'd recently graduated from IU's Kelley School of Business in Indianapolis where he was among our top students. He just started his career in Indianapolis, working in commercial real estate for a good friend of mine. As part of Brett's story hits close to me. For me, I started my own career in Indy at that age in the same field. He was heading to an Indianapolis Indians game in the light of day with his family when he was killed in a hijacking attempt right downtown. That happened in my hometown, that happened in our hometown, and it is painful for me to say that out loud. A family should be able to go to a ball game in our capital city and come home safely. Parents should be able to watch their son build a career, start a life, and become the man they raised Brett to be. Instead, his family is grieving a loss no family should have to endure. Today, I want his family to know from this well of the House that Brett is remembered, that his life mattered. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Minnesota seek recognition?
To address the House for 1 minute and extend and expand my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize Minnesota Senate President Pro Temp Ann Rest for over 40 years of service in the Minnesota legislature. Senator Rest led with co-governance, often holding listening sessions at Frankie's Chicago-style pizza in New Hope, where she heard directly from community members and let their voices lead her policymaking. She made history as the first and only legislator to chair the tax committee in both the State House and the Senate, where she shaped the largest tax cut package in state history. That landmark legislation invested more than $1.5 billion in a child tax cut fund and included over $105 million to expand affordable housing in our state. I've been incredibly grateful for her steadfast leadership and unwavering commitment to bettering the lives of all Minnesotans, and I wish her the very best in her retirement. She has made an incredible mark on my life and the lives of so many young Minnesota legislators, and I am so grateful for her. Thank you, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today alongside Congressman Buser to honor the life of Dr. Richard Alley, a devoted community member dedicated to education and patient care on a local and global level. Dr. Alley was not only a physician and a professor in Wilkes-Barre, where he provided decades of compassionate care for people within his local community, but also participated in international medical mission trips to provide care to people abroad. Dr. Alley also encouraged an educational philanthropy through assisting with high school scholarships in the greater Wyoming Valley and thus enhanced educational opportunities for younger generations. His actions in the academic world will continue to live on for many years to come. Dr. Alley not only helped in the spheres of education and medicine, but also served the armed services. He was a proud U.S. Navy veteran where he served as a lieutenant in the Medical Corps. Today, we honor Dr. Alley's service to his local community, to his country, and to the world. May we honor his legacy not just with words, but by striving to live with the same compassion, care, and devotion he showed every single day. Thank you. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Michigan seek recognition?
To address the House to revise my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Happy Juneteenth. Juneteenth, we honor and celebrate both liberation and perseverance. Juneteenth marks the moment when the promise of freedom finally reached the last enslaved Black Americans in Texas, more than 2 years after emancipation had been declared. As many of our residents across the country celebrate, we recognize the contributions of many of our Black communities whose labor and leadership and sacrifices helped build this country. We also remember the struggle for justice did not end on Juneteenth. Each generation has been called to continue the work of expanding opportunity, protecting civil rights, ensuring that every person is treated with human dignity. Juneteenth is a reminder that freedom must be more than a promise. It must be reflected in our schools, our workplaces, our neighborhoods, and in our democracy. Black neighbors need more than a day, Mr. Speaker. They deserve reparations. So let's celebrate Juneteenth, but let's be a reminder that, again, the future must include real results and real accountability for every family so they can thrive and a community can be valued. With that, I yield.
The gentlelady yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I seek unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I as well rise today along with my colleague, Congressman Bresnahan, to honor the contributions of Dr. Richard Alley, a great American from Bear Creek Township, Pennsylvania, who passed away this month at the age of 91. Dr. Alley was born in Berwick, Pennsylvania, the center of my district, dedicated his life to caring for friends and neighbors as a physician, and was a proud veteran of the United States Navy. During his distinguished career in medicine, Dr. Alley served as an attending physician at Mercy Hospital in Wilkes-Barre and as a medical consultant at facilities across the region. When he wasn't caring for patients, Richard Alley was teaching medical students at Drexel Medical School. Dr. Alley also generously gave his time to community organizations, including the Rotary Club, the Salvation Army, the Northeastern Pennsylvania Boy Scouts of America, and was himself an Eagle Scout. Dr. Alley's legacy of service lives on in his siblings, Allie, Sammy, Albert, and Elaine, and every student he taught and every patient he treated. Please join Congressman Bresnahan and I as we express our deepest condolences to Dr. Alley's family, friends, and community. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from New York seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me continue to recognize the voluntary service of those residents of Co-op City in the Bronx who are serving as Building Association presidents. We cannot recognize all of them in any one setting, but let me add to the list of names already mentioned for the work that they do to help make Co-op City the outstanding complex that it is. Leah Graham, Building 23. Katrina Dinham, Building 12. Yvette Livingston, Building 1. Bernard Silich, Building 7. Jewel Crawford Duncan, Building 10. Deborah Henry, Building 11. Bruce Silberman, Building 24. Barbara Johnson, Building 17. Ezekiel Springer, Building 32. Helen Atkins, Building 18. Sonia Feliciano, Building 19. There are more buildings and townhouses to recognize. We'll do so in the days to come. But this is the nation's largest cooperative complex, and it is run in an exemplary fashion because the residents and the shareholders care deeply about their community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from Colorado seek recognition?
I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to mourn the loss of Sergeant Devin A. Seibel, assigned to the Air Ambulance Company, 2nd Battalion, 4th Combat Aviation Brigade at Fort Carson in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Devin was a dedicated soldier who was deployed in support of Operation Inherent Resolve, an American-led coalition working to prevent a resurgence of ISIS in Iraq and Syria. On May 31st, Devin, at only 26 years young, tragically passed away during a training-related incident on Erbil Air Base in Iraq. His sacrifice is not only a reminder of the price of peace, but also the unwavering dedication to our freedoms. He leaves behind his loving wife, his stepdaughter, parents, and brother, whom we will be praying for. Mr. Speaker, I ask that you join me in remembering Sergeant Devin Seibel and his service to our nation. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Oregon seek recognition? Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, President Trump and I ran for office on the same promise, to lower costs. And let's review the promise President Trump made to the American people. The average cost of gas on the day President Trump took office was around $3 a gallon. On the campaign trail, he said he would bring the price of gas to under $2 a gallon. Today, the national average of gas is $4 a gallon, and it's over $5 in Oregon. Diesel's even higher, around $6 a gallon. And Oregonians, from families to farmers, are paying the steep price. Trump also promised to cut Americans' energy bill in half, but electricity prices, rates, they haven't fallen. Rates are up 10% under the Trump administration, which is more than the rate of inflation, and way more than hardworking families can afford right now. President Trump promised over and over again to make America affordable. It's obvious that this administration has not lived up to its promise. Instead, Trump has propelled our nation into an illegal war, which has disrupted global oil markets and has put his administration's foolishness on a global stage. For the sake of our wallets, our environment, and the future workforce and economy, we need to invest in a diverse portfolio of affordable, clean energy and rein in Trump's recklessness. Thank you, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Georgia seek recognition?
Ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of my bill, Chief Chris Eddy's Law. Battalion Chief Chris Eddy tragically passed away at the age of 35 from an explosion while attempting to put out a fire in a refrigerated container unit. Chief Eddy was a fearless firefighter with 17 years of service at fire departments including Walton, Rockdale, Morgan, Putnam, and Greene County. His death is a true tragedy, and unfortunately it was an avoidable one. That's why I've introduced Chief Chris Eddy's Law, which will create substantial changes that will help prevent this from happening again. By requiring placarding for refrigerated containers, firefighters will quickly be able to recognize if a container truck has the potential to explode before they decide how to handle the fire. Our firefighters put their lives on the line for us every day. The least we can do is ensure they have the information necessary to perform their job safely and effectively. Chief Eddy dedicated his life to saving others, and we owe it to him to ensure that this tragedy brings substantive change. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Arizona seek recognition?
Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to celebrate Juneteenth festivities happening in southern Arizona and throughout the country. The Emancipation Proclamation was issued by President Lincoln on January 1st, 1863. However, it took until June 19th, 1865, 2.5 years later, for all enslaved people to be informed of this order. As a member of the Pima County Board of Supervisors, I was proud to champion the board's first ever funding of the Tucson Juneteenth Committee and support making Juneteenth a paid administrative holiday for Pima County employees. As we mark the 161st anniversary of Juneteenth, we also recognize and celebrate the Tucson Juneteenth Committee, which has been bringing our community together in commemoration and celebration since 1970, thanks to the leadership of Larry Starks. I'm honored to join our community and the Tucson Juneteenth Committee in celebrating this important occasion. Their decades of dedication have helped preserve the history, culture, and significance of Juneteenth for generations to come. I invite all of Southern Arizona for the last of a month full of events to join us this Saturday, on Saturday, June 20th at the Keno Sports Complex for an evening of freedom, culture, education, and community as we honor this important milestone for our nation's history and recommit ourselves to the ongoing pursuit of equality and justice for all. Happy Juneteenth. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Virginia seek recognition? Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the more than 2 million women across the country who have answered the call to serve our nation in uniform. As a former Navy helicopter pilot, I had the honor and privilege of serving alongside remarkable and capable women whose professionalism and competence strengthened our armed forces and helped keep our country safe. Their service and the service of countless women that came before them deserves to be recognized. That's why I'm proud to introduce legislation designating June 12th as Women Veterans Appreciation Day. This date commemorates the signing of the Women's Armed Services Integration Act of 1948, landmark legislation that granted women the right to serve as permanent members of our military. Today, women serve in every branch of our armed forces and continue to make invaluable contributions to our national security. This legislation honors their sacrifices, their achievements, and their enduring legacy of service. To all the women veterans who have worn our nation's uniform, thank you for your service, your leadership, and your commitment to our great nation. Thank you, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from New Jersey seek recognition?
Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and revise my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you. Leonard Luciano Jr., affectionately known as Junior, Lenny, or Mr. Lou, was a devoted husband, father, grandfather, and school teacher in Newark, New Jersey. For decades, he was also known throughout Livingston and West Essex for making the most delicious pizza at Junior's Pizzeria. The 11th of 12 children, he was raised in Livingston, New Jersey, and Mr. Lou worked tirelessly to serve all those around him because he knew that through service and community, one improves the world as well as oneself. A member of the first graduating class of Livingston High School in 1957, he excelled as a standout football linebacker, leading his team in tackles year after year, a fact he happily loved to share. Nothing can make up for the sudden loss of this generous and kind-hearted man, but it is a privilege to take this moment of remembrance. We are all so much better for having known you, Mr. Luciano. Job well done. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from New Mexico seek recognition?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, we must celebrate the wins because there is so much that happens here in the House that is not in service of the American people, including this week, your efforts to give a blank check to ICE and to pass an education bill that would gut funding for schools and education institutions. That is why we must celebrate the wins and why I am so proud today to introduce my bipartisan Post-Secondary Success Act to ensure that all students from all walks of life can succeed. In New Mexico, we are leading the way as the first state in the country to guarantee early childhood education, free childcare, free college, and free trade school for all, legislation I was proud to co-sponsor and lead in the legislature and here in Congress. These are generational investments that will transform lives of countless New Mexicans. And today, I am introducing my Post-Secondary Success Act that will make crucial investments to ensure that working parents, first-generation students, veterans, and students with disabilities who face real barriers, financial stress, lack of support, and systems that were not built for them can succeed.
The gentlelady's time has expired.
That will help to transform lives, and we are so
the gentlelady
proud
will
to
suspend.
introduce
Her time
this
has expired.
legislation.
For what? The lady is no longer recognized. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Massachusetts seek recognition?
Unanimous consent to address the House.
Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to celebrate Juneteenth, marking 161 years since the full enforcement of the Emancipation Proclamation. The Juneteenth flag was created by Boston's own Ben Haith and insists that the story of our nation is incomplete without the ongoing work of liberation. Red, white, and blue affirm that Black Americans are Americans, an arc to symbolize the horizon of a future where America lives up to its ideals, and a starburst in the middle, representing the new era of freedom. As we commemorate this sacred day, let us honor our ancestors not just through reflection, but through action, organizing and restorative and reparative policies that bring us closer to freedom, the freedom they dreamt of and fought so hard for. Let everyone of all backgrounds and in all regions of this country commit to fighting for an America that oppresses no one. From Galveston to Boston, our futures are tied. Happy Juneteenth.
For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I'm so excited to celebrate National Fishing and Boating Week and recognize the legendary Big Rock Blue Marlin Tournament in Morehead City, a treasured tradition along our beautiful Crystal Coast. For generations, fishing and boating have brought families together, supported small businesses, strengthened our coastal economy, and connected people to a breathtaking waters that make Eastern North Carolina so special. The Big Rock Tournament represents the very best of our maritime heritage, drawing anglers from far and near to experience world-class competition and the unmatched hospitality of our coastal communities. Fishing is not just a pastime in the East, it's our way of life. As a co-chair of the Congressional Boating Caucus, I'm so proud to support our boaters, anglers, captains, crews, and coastal businesses who keep these rich traditions alive. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Minnesota seek recognition? The gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to recognize and honor Chief Gregory Peterson for more than 51 years of extraordinary service to the Mound community and the people of Minnesota. Chief Peterson joined the Mound Fire Department in 1975 as a volunteer firefighter and dedicated the next 5 decades of his life to protecting and serving others. Over the course of his remarkable career, he served as captain, training officer, assistant fire chief, emergency management director, and ultimately fire chief. Throughout his career, Chief Peterson answered more than 15,400 calls for fire and emergency assistance. His steady commitment helped to shape generations of firefighters and to strengthen the Mound community for decades. Chief Peterson's career reflects the very best of public service, selflessness, professionalism, and a deep dedication to his neighbors and community. On behalf of the people of Minnesota, I thank Chief Peterson for his incredible career and lasting legacy, and I wish him all the best in his well-earned retirement. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Rhode Island seek recognition? The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, House Republicans are making it harder for moms and kids to get the food they need. WIC, or the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, has provided mothers and babies with healthy food and a solid start in life. Needy families use it to purchase formula, fruits and veggies, milk, and other nutritious essentials, but House Republicans just slashed this vital benefit by 10% in their agriculture spending bill, making it 10% harder for 18,000 Rhode Islanders to make ends meet. Because of Trump's latest cruelty, moms will go to sleep every night fearing their kids will go without. Without proper nutrition, kids are denied growth, learning, and opportunity. Republicans can always find money for billionaires, but how is it they can't find money for moms and babies? Every kid deserves enough to eat. It's time to stop the cuts, it's time to end the chaos, and it's time to bring down costs. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Massachusetts seek recognition? The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to enter into the record a few portions of the editorial written by Stephen Kahn and his colleagues regarding the Trump administration's cuts to U.S. biomedical research. Steve Kahn and his colleagues were removed from the American Diabetes Association's annual meeting, where NIH Director Dr. Jay Bhattacharya was set to speak, while passing out copies of their editorial. Attacks on science always become attacks on scientists. This leads to policy made by fear or favor, not by evidence. I quote, "Just a year ago in these very pages, we highlighted the many threats the current U.S. administration posed to the health of our nation. Since then, there have been actions by the administration that have caused grave health consequences, and their current approach will continue to do so. The numerous measles outbreaks and associated avoidable deaths have resulted in part from hyping disproven theories of harm rather than publicizing the effectiveness of the measles vaccine. While one would think that this congressional action to preserve the NIH budget was a clear repudiation, it has not stopped President Trump from requesting a 2027 budget that now seeks a $5 billion reduction to the NIH. We call on all concerned citizens of our beloved country to contact their congressional representatives to declare
Gentleman's
their
time has
alarm.
expired.
I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Illinois seek recognition? The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the University of Chicago for winning the 2026 NCAA Division III Men's Tennis National Championship. The top-ranked U Chicago Maroons, led by head coach Matt Brissotti, defeated Claremont Mud Scripps 4-3 in a thrilling comeback and fourth battle at the Champions Tennis Club in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Christian Liu and Ujar Sher gave U Chicago early momentum. Michael Choi rallied from a 5-2 deficit to win. Finally, senior Emil Grant Charoff helped clinch the title for the national title for the U of Chicago Maroons. What is even more amazing is that this U Chicago's third championship title in 5 years. Congratulations to these student athletes and the coaching staff for this exceptional accomplishment and historic achievement. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition? The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize Eddie Hart for his induction into the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame. A Californian from birth, Eddie won state and NCAA titles during his collegiate track and field career, where he became known as one of the top sprinters in the nation. Eddie's performance in the 1972 Munich Olympic Games earned him the title, the world's fastest human, and a gold medal for him and the United States of America. Today, Eddie serves disadvantaged youth in our community through his Eddie Hart All-in-One Foundation. Eddie's commitment to service, his athletic excellence, has touched countless lives for generations. Please join me in recognizing Eddie Hart, gold medalist, for his induction into the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame. Eddie Hart was once the world's fastest human. He is still one of the world's best humans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Ohio seek recognition? The gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, earlier this week, news broke out that you have a secret plan to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. The following day, as new numbers were released showing core inflation rose to 4.2% on everything, the president said he loves inflation. He thinks the numbers are just great. I'm sorry, but where I come from, our retired workers know that Social Security and Medicare are hard-earned benefits we all pay into. And also, we know Medicaid is a lifeline for the most at-risk seniors to access health care or pay for long-term nursing care for those who can't afford it in their golden years. We also know that the price of everything is going up, from gas to groceries to housing and so much more. Look at energy. Oh my goodness. I don't agree with Speaker Johnson's notion to cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. We should strengthen them and even expand them, and I don't agree that inflation is great. I don't love it. If Americans coast to coast can't afford to put gas in the car, groceries on the table, and a roof over their head, then that's a problem. The Speaker and the President should get outside the Beltway bubble. Americans need their serious attention to bring inflation down.
Expired.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
I hereby designate lays before the House of Communication.
The Speaker's Rooms, Washington, D.C., June 11, 2026. I hereby designate the period from Thursday, June 11, 2026, through Monday, June 22, 2026, as a district work period under Clause 13 of Rule 1. Signed sincerely, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 3rd, 2025, the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Green, is recognized for 60 minutes as the designee of the Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and still I rise with much to say, but before going into my message, I'd like to yield some time to a colleague who has done an outstanding job representing the 33rd District in the state of Texas. After he has consumed as much time as he likes, I will then continue with my message. But at this time, I'm proud to yield to the Honorable Mark Veazey from the 33rd District of Texas.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the gentleman from the 9th Congressional District and from Texas, a colleague and a great guy that represents the greater Houston-Fort Bend area for yielding me some time. Mr. Speaker, the last couple of weeks have lost just a couple of amazing constituents. One in a terrible tragedy. We had a fire in Dallas. We had an apartment building that exploded. It was a gas explosion. And one of the people that lost their life in the explosion was Miss Sylvia Collins, who was just an incredible person. Anytime I would go to an event in the Oak Cliff, Dallas part of the district that I represent, Sylvia was usually at that event. She supported and attended so many of the different functions and so many of the different programs for constituents and town halls that I would put on for the district. And she's someone that is going to deeply be missed. She was someone that literally dedicated her entire life and her time in Dallas trying to do everything that she could to make sure that people were taken care of, and she was always looking out for someone else and just always had a friendly smile on her face. So much civic engagement. Her time as a precinct chair for the Dallas in Dallas County, community organizer, and she just wanted to make sure that all voices were heard. And she just did an extraordinary time in doing that. And throughout her life, she became known as someone that was passionate. And anyone that asked her to join a cause or be a part of something, she was always there for them, whether it was campaigning for civil rights, whether it was helping different people that wanted to run for office, being a spokesperson for our immigrant community. Sylvia was someone that was always there for everyone else. And it was such a tragedy when she died in the explosion. There was also a young woman and her baby that were killed in the explosion as well, and we're still trying to find out exactly what happened during that explosion, but her loss of life has truly left a hole in the Dallas County community, the Dallas County Democratic community, and just everyone that came across this amazing woman that always had a smile and a hug for you, and she's going to be missed, and we just want to send prayers out to her family. The next person here that I want to recognize is Mr. Anderson Lampkin, and his wife is still with us. They would have celebrated 73 years of marriage in August, and this extraordinary couple, the reason why I have both of them pictured, even though Mr. Lampkin is the person that we lost, is because they did everything together as a family, the entire family, whether it was Boy Scouts, whether it was all of their work at Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church on the north side of Fort Worth, NAACP, they did everything together as a family. And I think that they're just an amazing example of what we need to get back to. Mr. Lampkin was born in Gonzales, Texas, but was raised in Austin. And when he left East Austin, he moved to Dallas and then came to Fort Worth about 10 years later. And just like to volunteer and be a part of the community. 60 years as a sign language interpreter, the deaf ministry bus driver, a deacon at his church, a trustee at his church, a leader in his church. He was someone that was committed to public service as a non-elected official. And it was just amazing to go to a Boy Scout event, for instance, and see him and his wife involved, to see his kids involved, to see his grandkids involved in Boy Scouts. They did everything together as a unit. His leadership and volunteer services touched so many different clubs and agencies in Fort Worth and in Tarrant County. I mentioned Shiloh, the Longhorn Council, Boy Scouts there in Fort Worth, the Fort Worth Education Association, and many, many others. He was from a very large family, and Mr. Lampkin is someone that is going to be missed greatly. I will miss seeing that couple at different events together, and I urge you to keep Miss Lampkin, Miss Dorothy Lampkin in prayer, and the kids and the grandkids and great-grandkids in prayer. Mr. Lampkin, job well done, sir. And I want to thank the gentleman from Texas, my colleague, my delegation colleague, for allowing me a few minutes to honor these extraordinary Americans. Thank you, sir.
Greatly appreciate the way you have conducted this time, and I wish you the very best. Mr. Speaker, and still I rise. And I rise, Mr. Speaker, as I always do, unbought, unbossed, unafraid, and now I must also add unelected, a liberated Democrat, truly liberated. Liberated to the extent that while I have been censured, I have not been silenced. While I have now been unelected, I will not be silent. My agenda remains the same. It is still the agenda that deals with the voices of those that are not heard in this House as they should be. The voices of the least, the last, and the lost. The least among us. Persons who don't inherit a legacy of much, but actually a legacy of poverty, not plenty. Persons who are among the lost in a society as rich as ours, where persons find themselves lost in places of despair, living in places that you and I would not consider a place habitable. The least and the lost, and of course the last. The last would be those persons who are the last to be hired and the first to be fired. The least, the last, and the lost. But I also represent other people, and I will continue to do so. I represent those persons who suffer invidious discrimination. They are among the LGBTQIA+ community. They are women. They are persons who are of the Islamic faith. They are persons who are currently suffering from anti-Semitism. They are persons who are suffering because of the color of their skin. So today, I rise to speak on the topic, invidious discrimination emanating from the presidency. Invidious discrimination emanating from the presidency. And I'd like to call to the attention of the listening audience and viewing audience an article from the Huffington Post, the Huff Post. And this article is styled, "Trump used his go-to insult in interview after Knicks' loss." That would not be the last game, of course, the game prior to this one. After Knicks' loss, and experts say it's a pattern. We're talking about his go-to insult. And I must commend Ms. Katie Mather for the outstanding job she has done with this article. It has the date June 9th, 2026 as its date of publication. I'd like to read some excerpts from this because I think it will give us an opportunity to understand how the Trump presidency has not only impacted what he does, but also some other aspects of society. So this is truly invidious discrimination emanating from the presidency. Let me read some excerpts. The first reads, "First take, host Stephen A. Smith slammed President Donald Trump on Tuesday morning after Trump told reporters on Monday night that Smith wouldn't be a good fit to run for president because you need a high IQ. My dear friends, if I may say brothers and sisters, because I truly believe that there's but one race, and that's the human race. So if I may just say, my dear brothers and sisters, friends, you may call Stephen A. Smith many things. I probably would not agree with anything that is negative. I don't know a negative side of him. I know that he is opinionated, but that's not unusual in the United States of America to have people who are opinionated. It is especially not unusual here in the House of Representatives. So you might call him many things, but I don't believe that you can call him a person in need of a high IQ, implying that he has a low IQ. And it goes on to say this in this article. Stephen A. Smith is brilliant. And I say this without question, reservation, or hesitation. He is one of the most brilliant people that I have seen in the sports arena, but he goes beyond sports. He talks on a multiplicity of subjects all the time, and he acquits himself well on every topic that I've heard him speak on. Now, you don't have to agree with the person to understand the brilliance of the person. He has a brilliant mind, and I do believe that the president made this comment for dubious reasons. So let me continue reading from excerpts in the article. Trump's low IQ comment against Smith has racist implications. This is what the article says. Racist implications, and it referred to a racial dog whistle by linguistics and political experts, said Dr. Karen Anderson, a communication study professor at Colorado State University. This professor is making the point that when the president says these things about persons with low IQs, he is actually signaling to others. It is a racist dog whistle. The article goes on to say, what distinguishes a dog whistle from just an insult is it is designed to sound innocuous. The dog whistle is designed to sound as though, oh, it's harmless, just another thing someone is saying to be funny or cute. Well, not this dog whistle. And Anderson goes on to say, Anderson, who teaches courses in rhetoric, political communications, and gender and communications, told HuffPost, it is meant to be deniable. The virtue, the rhetorical appeal of a dog whistle is when you can deny that it functions in the way that it actually is designed to function. So this dog whistle is designed to appear to be innocuous, harmless, but its functionality is rooted in something else. He goes on to say that it is a term that white supremacists have historically used against people of color, and it's not the first time the president has publicly used it. Last month, he called House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries a thug and a low IQ person on Truth Social. This is where he speaks much of what he says to the public. But this term thug, let me focus on it for just a moment. Hakeem Jeffries, he calls a thug. That's demeaning. He does this to demean people of color, but then he adds the injury to this insult of low IQ. You can accuse Hakeem Jeffries of many things, but you cannot in any way produce the empirical evidence to show that he is a person with a low IQ. He is a brilliant man, a brilliant person who has the appeal that most people understand to be that of a person with great intellect. So when the president calls him a thug and a low IQ person on Truth Social, and he did this in April. This was a means by which he could demean and insult and use the term that those who live in the world of white supremacy embrace. This is something that they readily embrace, and they understand the dog whistle. They understand what the president really means when he says thug and low IQ. Let me go on. In April, he called Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson the new low IQ person on the court. The new low IQ person on the court. During the 2024 presidential election, Trump repeatedly described the former vice president, that would be Kamala Harris, as a low IQ individual. Note what all of these people have in common. Color, African Americans, persons who have reached great heights in terms of their professions, persons who are making a difference in a very positive way in our country. But the president would demean them by challenging their intellect, and in so doing, appeal to white supremacists who still believe that people of color have low intellect. Reading on, he applies it, meaning his low IQ comment, indiscriminately to black people in different walks of life and professions. This is what Anderson said. That's where it reveals that it's a dog whistle because it doesn't relate to anything else. Goes on to say, experts say the low IQ insult has a storied past. That is a long history in the United States of this low IQ dog whistle. This is Anderson speaking again. Goes on to say, during the colonial era, white male elites took for granted that they were cognitively superior to women and people of color, and thus divinely appointed for leadership. Well, that explains a lot of the sexism that we have seen. That explains a lot of what we have seen when persons decide that they're simply going to reduce you to something less than human by assigning you to the primate family and calling you an ape, or saying that you're related to the apes, or somehow you are an ape, reducing people of color to animals that are not as superior to life forms as some others. These animals are not persons. They exist, and we want them to exist, but we don't want people to compare human beings to these animals. And the president does this. He has compared a former president and first lady to apes. We don't like to talk about this, I found. That there are many people who would just rather see this just kind of go away, and let's let that just be something that he's done. Well, the president never apologized for it after saying someone else actually posted it, but he never apologized. And by the way, I don't ask him to apologize. I ask him to just tell the truth, that this was wrong, that it should not have been posted, and that he would not allow this to happen again. That would be more suitable for the means by which he can atone for his transgression. But he hasn't done any of that. He tends to double down. Well, this article goes on to remind us that IQ was used to justify heinous behavior like racial segregation and forced sterilization. Now, this is something another social scientist, Figueroa, has called to our attention in this article. Forced sterilization because of IQ actually happened in the United States of America. We have much to atone for. We, as we approach this great anniversary, we would have people believe that all is well. All is not well, and all won't be well until some of our transgressions have been properly addressed. This notion that you should sterilize a woman because you believe that she has a low IQ is more than simply a crime that is statutorily illegal. It is really a crime against humanity to engage in this kind of conduct. And this actually happened. Racial segregation. After we ended the enslavement of African Americans in this country, Africans from America, living in America, who were at the time, much of the time, not declared citizens. So let's just say Africans in America. After slavery was ended, the enslavement of people for some 240 years, the people who had a hand in building this very facility, the Capitol, the White House, roads, bridges, planted seeds, harvested crops, fed the nation. They were the economic foundational mothers and fathers of the country. These persons, after we ended the enslavement of these persons, then we embarked upon convict leasing, which was another form of racism. Slavery itself was rooted in racism. And this whole notion of convict leasing, which would allow people who violated some code to be placed in the hands of other persons, leased out from the government or some arm of the government, and many of them died as leased persons, convicts who have been leased. There's a grave near Houston, Texas, with 95 bodies in it, persons who were convicts and leased, all in a common grave. This kind of behavior was justified based upon IQ. These were less than human. They were akin to the lower forms of animals that we would call primates. So as such, you can do almost anything to them that you like, and people did. So this forced sterilization and this segregation, which was a form of invidious discrimination rooted in racism, segregation rooted in racism, many of us alive today experienced lawful racism in the form of segregation. Lawful racism in the form of segregation. In this country, many of us went to back doors, drank from colored water fountains, sat in the back of the bus, locked up in the bottom of the jail. Many of us suffered this form of invidious discrimination known as segregation, which is rooted in racism. We, the people, decided that we would no longer have this form of invidious discrimination exist lawfully, so we ended it lawfully, but we didn't end it as it relates to the practice. Invidious discrimination against people of color still exists to this day in this country. And people who would say that it doesn't exist and say that repeatedly, who are in high places, those comments are based in racism. If you are saying repeatedly that people of color are not discriminated against in this country, and you're saying it in public spaces, and again, you're saying it repeatedly, you, my friend, are a racist. You are. Nobody bothered to tell you before now. I know you didn't get the word, but I'm here to tell you that people who do this to demean other people, to say that they are less than, that is racist rhetoric, and persons who do this regularly with intentionality, you are a racist. Continuing. As I indicated, IQ was used to justify heinous behavior like racial segregation and forced sterilization. That thinking, it reads here, was amplified in the late 1900s by a popular book titled The Bell Curve, which falsely claimed that IQ differences between racial groups were biological. Phrenology. another form of race science that claims skull shapes determined intelligence, has also been completely discredited by the scientific community because of how often it was used to uphold scientific racism and gender stereotypes throughout the US and Europe. Friends, people of color and women have suffered greatly in this country under the color of law, under the guise of science that was rooted in racism. We have to change this. This cannot continue in this country. And until we change this, we cannot truly say that all persons are treated equally. Although they are created equally, they are not treated equally. And we cannot say that liberty and justice for all exists when we address ourselves and the Pledge of Allegiance. It just doesn't happen. It's not the case. There is not liberty and justice for all in the United States of America. But let us continue. It reads, roughly 8 in 10 of Trump's low IQ attacks target black and brown people. This is what data shows. Roughly 8 in 10 target black and brown people. We're talking about empirical evidence now. Trump has been using his dog whistle frequently. Between January 20th of 2025 and April 25th of 2026, Trump posted low IQ or a variation of this phrase 24 times. Let me stop for just a moment and deal with the variation of the phrase. Because there are some people who don't say low IQ, they will say stupid. They will say, oh, black people are stupid. Or they'll say a particular black person is stupid. And in so doing, they will say, now, I really mean this in the sense of the way the word stupid is defined. So they use stupidity. And they use this in the sense of referring to the person's intellect. Again, another means by which persons are using dog whistles to demean people of color. And this dog whistle that the president uses has permeated what I call racist radio. Racist radio. Yes, racist radio exists. Not all radio is racist, but there is a large segment, a subset of radio that is racist. And they are on the air daily, utilizing terms such as stupidity, depicting people of color as less than human beings. And they've done it to the extent that they've normalized it within the circle that they reside in. They've normalized it. People just come to accept it. Well, I don't. I refuse to accept what racist radio does routinely. And the president, who is at the top of this chain of unscrupulous behavior, he's at the very top. The president shapes the tone and tenor for all of these things that happen beneath him. Much of what we are seeing today is being perpetrated and perpetuated because the president does it. So why can't others do it? People see it this way. So we have this racist radio that is constantly perpetrating and perpetuating racist dog whistles in the form of IQ, in the form of depicting persons as less than human who are persons of color, and in the form of using language other than low IQ, such as stupid. Stupidity has become another dog whistle for racist radio. And they know that I speak truth, but they rarely have the truth spoken such that they are exposed. So those of you who are listening to it and enjoying it, you're enjoying racism. And as long as you continue to enjoy it and support it by the products being advertised on those stations, you're supporting racism. Racism exists in the public arena because in many instances, people are buying the products that the racists purvey. The racists sell the products on their radio stations. They advertise the products. You buy them from those stations, and as a result, you are supporting racism. I refuse to do it. Racism is something that we have to combat. Sexism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, homophobia, all of the various invidious phobias. So let me repeat this, it bears repeating. Roughly 8 in 10 of Trump's low IQ attacks target black or brown people, data shows. Goes on to say, Trump has been using this dog whistle frequently between January 20th, 2025 and April 25th, 2026. Trump posted low IQ or a variation of the phrase 24 times, according to a study by Truth Out, a nonprofit news organization. 8 out of 10 posts were directed at black or brown people. In the first 10 months of his second term, Trump did not refer to any white person as someone with low IQ. I'm going to repeat that. In the first 10 months of his second term, Trump did not refer to any white person as someone with low IQ. These are the kinds of things people don't want to hear. But you have to know the truth so that you can free your minds. I've read someplace that if you know the truth, it will set you free. I want to free your minds. This will free you. Some of you choose not to be free, and there's nothing that will be said to free your minds because you choose not to be free. There is no one so blind as he who chooses not to see. Not as he who cannot see, but he who chooses not to see. And there are many people who choose not to see. No white person referred to with low IQ. And the article goes on to indicate it is designed to signal a specific audience that a speaker shares the ideology or belief systems that they shares their ideology or belief system. That's what these dog whistles are designed to do, to say to other people, hey, don't worry, I got your back. I believe that just as you believe that they have low IQs, so it's okay for you to say it on racist radio now. It's all right. You can call persons stupid. You can say low IQ. You can do it with impunity because the president is doing it. Well, it's not all right, and you're not going to do it with impunity because you're going to be exposed. This goes on to indicate that Trump uses it to refer to black people and predominantly, but not exclusively, black women. Predominantly, but not exclusively, black women. I stand in defense of black women. I stand in defense of the black women that he has called persons with low IQs. I defend Maxine Waters. I defend Vice President Kamala Harris. I defend Jasmine Crockett. I defend the women that this president would demean with a racist comment. And that's what it is. It is racist. Racist commentary, constantly repeated over the airwaves. And it goes on to say, I think in his mind, this is a person speaking now of the president, I think in his mind, because it doesn't explicitly refer to race, he feels that it is easy to deny that it's a racist label. My friends, he can deny it, but there are some of us who see through it. I'm here to tell you that it is racist, and it is a racist label. This article concludes with this language. By repeating the phrase openly, as is done on racist radio quite regularly, remember, we're talking today about invidious discrimination emanating from the presidency. And I chose this topic emanating from the presidency because I wanted to talk about how it is permeating society. It starts there at the top with this president, and it permeates society. Now, the argument can be made that it was here and it was before this president took office, but he has popularized it. He has normalized it. He has made it such that people in racist radio use it regularly and feel as though they are doing something noble by demeaning people of color and women, and others as well, members of the LGBTQIA+ community. So he says, I think that in his mind, because he doesn't explicitly refer to race, he feels that it's easy to deny and that it's a racist label, The final comment, by repeating the phrase openly, the practice further popularizes the concept. By repeating it, he popularizes the racist comment. As another person who spoke, Harris, once put it, Trump's language seems to have become less a dog whistle and more a bullhorn. Less a dog whistle, more a bullhorn. So friends, here we are. We have a president of the United States of America who routinely uses racist commentary to refer to people of color. Routinely. Does it without a thought as to how it impacts the lives of the people he refers to, the persons that he's calling low IQ. Doesn't really understand, maybe he does understand and doesn't care, but he should consider how it impacts the lives of people, how it signals to other people that the persons are less than, and how it can cause some people to respond to them in a very adverse way. But we have to say to the president, and I do so today, Mr. President, if you are using this kind of commentary, as you do, and you continue to do it routinely, someone has to tell you what you're doing. And here's what you're doing, Mr. President. You are bringing the country itself to a level of concern for others such that we are not seen as we were once seen, as a country with the Statue of Liberty, the notion that there's liberty and justice for all in our Pledge of Allegiance, the notion that we truly respect all people and that all persons are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You are causing people across the globe to see us differently. You're causing people across the globe to understand that the United States is undergoing something that they never thought they'd see, and quite frankly, I'm amazed myself. So, Mr. President, there's only one thing that I can say to you. When you do this, you are not only using a racist dog whistle, you are a racist. That kind of terminology utilized the way you do it regularly makes you the racist who has now given other racists the license to say what they say, openly and notoriously, normalizing racism. As we approach the 250th anniversary, Mr. President, you should be ashamed. But there's no shame in you. You've already demonstrated this with your behavior over the many years that you've had a public voice. You've already demonstrated there's no shame in you. So because you have no shame in you, Mr. President, I would call to your attention that while I am unbought, unbossed, unafraid, and unelected, censured but not silenced, Mr. President, there is still a countdown to impeachment. And Mr. President, it is just a matter of time. Your day of reckoning will come. Someone is going to stand in the well of this House of Representatives and is going to introduce articles of impeachment against you, and these articles are going to pass in this House of Representatives. Before that person does it, however, I believe that there will be someone who will introduce articles to lay the foundation for the actual articles that will later on pass the House of Representatives. There's always someone who lays a foundation for things. Foundation was laid at the Edmund Pettus Bridge for the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Foundation was laid to eliminate invidious discrimination in busing, on bus lines, when Rosa Parks took a seat and ignited a spark that started a civil rights movement. So someone's going to lay the foundation. And Mr. President, you should know you will be impeached again. You will be 3 times impeached. Mr. Speaker, with that said, I, Al Green, a proud, unbought, unbossed, unafraid, unelected, truly liberated Democrat, I yield back the balance of my time.
Members are reminded to refrain from engaging in personalities toward the President and to direct their remarks to the Chair. Pursuant to Clause 13 of Rule 1, the House stands adjourned until 10:30 a.m. on Monday next.